Hi everyone, welcome back to BH. In continuation of talking about history, Indian history that too, and what's been happening with our economy, I thought today we'll touch upon the Indian rupee and the famous devaluation of the Indian rupee. Historically, Indian rupee was pegged to the British pound at the time of independence. Then progressively, each government up to Indira Gandhi's government has been having problems with the Indian rupee because we are not a big exporting house at that point of time. We had ran huge trade deficits and we couldn't pay our bills. So we were systematically controlled by the government, the Indian rupee, and it was devalued over a period of time. Then came the famous 1991 story, which I thought I'll hand over to Anand, and he'll tell us how we became what we are today. The great story of the hop, skip, and jump.
Anyway, so the story is this: India started with being pegged to the British pound, and we were also importing food at that time.
Yes,
You have to understand till 1980, we were importing food.
yes,
As Louis Armstrong would say, we were doing importing the bare necessities of life,
very true.
and we didn't have enough to export. And our entire government machinery was socialist left. And after Nehru, we began to the left of left,
We went extreme.
extreme. So the idea was not to export. The idea was import substitution. Somehow we could substitute whatever we were importing locally. It was against all economic sense because, like Ricardo says, every nation has its own competitive advantage. So you have to play to your advantages, export what you can, and import what you cannot. So we should have played to our advantages. We didn't. So there was always we were running a trade deficit. We were always borrowing money. We were importing food. We were importing fuel. So it was a serious problem. And the rupee in every
Instance.
instance would be devalued. But at that time, even today, we don't have much economic knowledge. So every rupee depreciation was considered a national shame,
Correct.
which is not.
It's not.
So, but I ragged the BJP because they say we'll take the rupee to 40, 30 as if it's a great thing,
Yeah, they don't
which
really.
they can never do that. But only persons who understand economics understand that it can never happen. And if you take the rupee to 40, India's competitive advantage in IT will vanish overnight.
Extinguished.
India's pharma industry will die overnight and you will lose 10 crore jobs. So the rupee strengthening is out of the window. The history is that till 1971, all countries were fixed to the British dollar.
True.
So we also had made a transition from pound to the dollar.
True.
And the government would decide the rate of the rupee. The first freely floating system happened on the 15th August 1971 when Nixon floated the
US
dollar.
dollar.
Till then, the dollar was pegged to gold, and we were pegged to dollar and indirectly pegged to gold. And we should know Nehru died in 1964. So he was not a villain. The entire world was in fixed currency at that time. So it was not Nehru.
That was the world that at the
That
time.
was the world at that time. We continued to be managing because we were short of currency. If you had allowed the rupee to float on those days, the rupee would have dramatically weakened. So we continued for another 20 years with a fixed currency. And in these 20 years, you had the Congress, you had the Janata Party, of which the current government's leaders were important part. And then you had the United Front, Chandrasekhar government and Devilal government also. So everybody had ruled, including the left. And we knew this kind of economic things we did would not change the landscape.
Hmm.
So the reforms were coming. In 1991, what happened is we had a deep balance of payment crisis. Luckily, we were independent, but we had to free the balance of payment. That's when, in between July 1st and July 10th of 1991, Manmohan Singh and Dr. C. Rangarajan decided to free the currency. So they had this hop, skip, and jump. Basically, they wanted to devalue the rupee in two stages and sometime later allow it to manage the float. The hop is the first small jump, the skip is the bigger jump, and 2 years later they allowed it to float. So in 91, what they did is they on July 1st They devalued the rupee by 9%. And the whole hell broke loose. Narasimha Rao was running a minority government. The president was R. Venkatraman, an ex-finance minister. He called the prime minister and told him, your government will fall. So he was under pressure. On the 9th of July, the RBI was supposed to announce a 11% devaluation. The announcement was supposed to go at 9:30 in the morning. At 9:15 or 9 o'clock, Narasimha Rao got cold feet and called Manmohan Singh to tell the Reserve Bank governor not to devalue the rupee. But Manmohan Singh, being who he was, knew that the rupee had to be devalued. So he waited for half an hour and then called at 9:45 and asked C. Rangarajan stop the devaluation. He said, sir, the announcement went 15 minutes back. So he said, okay, and put the phone down and called up the Prime Minister and told him, sorry, sir, the announcement has already gone. So Narasimha Rao said, let it be. And so the rupee depreciated 20% in 11 days. A big depreciation. All cost of goods, everything went up 20%. And then over the next 2 years, they allowed it to devalue
Slowly,
further
further.
and then managed to float it. In between, they had a dual exchange rate.
Correct.
If you exported, you got a higher return. And if you for import you had a separate rate, for export you had a separate rate. And then you had exchange licenses, export licenses which we could buy and sell.
And lots of corruption in that because of the disparity.
No, what they did is they gave you export licenses. You could buy the license in the market and then use it to import.
Correct.
So the licenses were going at a premium. Luckily, in 2 years, all that was put to an end, and by 95, you had a free floating currency.
An entire grey market, black market disappeared.
Yes, because I remember two incidents. When I went abroad in 1985, for the first time alone, I was 17 and a half, the famous European trip.
Yes.
So you guys were in Saudi. So my father told me, don't worry, you get on the flight to go to Rome. Money will be there in Rome because you couldn't take dollars from here.
Correct.
So I could take only $500. So with $500, I landed in Rome. And my father telecommunications being what it is,
Back then, yes.
he could never catch me till I landed in US. And my father was frantically searching for me across the world, and I was going from place to place. And then finally, when I landed in New York, one of our cousins called up and said, frantically, your dad is searching all over the world for you. And, we have money. I'll transfer money to you now. I said, no, I'm managing. I don't need money. And so I came back. But what I'm saying is, you couldn't take money.
No.
Nowadays, we take a plastic card with fill it up with how much ever dollars you want.
It's taken for granted.
It's taken for granted. So, this is what it was. This is one side of the story. And whenever we came from Saudi, there would be a tout offering us.
Right.
There's an official rate and an unofficial rate. If the official rate was 9 rupees, people were offering us 20 rupees to buy dollars from us.
True.
There was shortage of dollars. All that grey market has vanished.
True.
You can buy dollars wherever you want.
Correct. And devaluing of the Indian rupee is a currency advantage to India.
It's a big advantage. It basically reflects the inflation difference between two countries.
True.
It's not some man-made number. If your rupee is weakening, it means your inflation is higher than that of the US.
True.
If your inflation is not weakening, then your rupee will appreciate.
So begs the question, why doesn't China free float its currency? Why don't you explain that?
China wants to manipulate its currency. The big difference between China and India is India does not export more than what it imports, including your software, your shortage. So your dollar reserves has been built by borrowing in dollars and selling your companies. Whereas China exports more than what it imports. So it's earned its dollars. To remain competitive, it manipulates its currency lower so that it can always export more.
Otherwise, currency will strengthen.
The currency will strengthen. So the natural bias for the Chinese currency is to strengthen. That will destroy their economy. The natural bias for your currency is to decline, and therefore you allowed it to decline.
Yes. And it's always better to be cheaper than more expensive.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, thank you, Anand. Thanks for this. And I hope you guys found this conversation interesting. do subscribe to our channel and share this video if you think it is something you would like your friends to hear. Turn on the bell notifications so you'll know when we put out a new video. And thanks again for watching Be Rich.
We had a meeting in Singapore. I was very pleased with the results. Indians received me with great love and affection, and I enjoyed my time in Singapore. The meeting was a big success, and I could meet a people from various walks of life. I miss going to Kuala Lumpur, which is very close to Singapore, just 4 hours drive, and I have been asked to come there. So my team decided on the 11th of June, Sunday, we would do an event in Kuala Lumpur. If you would like to meet me in Kuala Lumpur, kindly send a message at the WhatsApp number given below, and or drop a mail to the mail ID given below. My team would contact you at earliest. Once again, I thank you for your support for Be Rich. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.